Mage Knight.
Combat. This video will talk about basic combat. The advanced combat video will talk about special abilities in combat. Enemy tokens. Let's take a look at enemy tokens. The number at the top is the armor of the enemy. It basically means you need this much attack to defeat this enemy. The number to the left is the attack. The number is how much block you will need to counter the attack, or how much damage you will take if you do not block. On the right there may be an icon showing any special abilities of the enemy. Some enemies may have special defensive abilities, such as resistance. These icons are next to the armor icon of the enemy. The number at the bottom is the amount of fame you get when you defeat this enemy. Combat has 4 phases: the range and siege attack phase, the block phase, the assigned damage phase, and the attack phase. Players can play any number of special effects during a combat phase. However, no healing effects may be played during combat. The first phase of combat is the ranged and siege attack phase. The ranged and siege attack gives the opportunity to defeat an enemy without having to block their attack. During the ranged and siege attack phase, choose one or more enemy tokens as the target of the attack, and play any number of ranged attacks or siege attacks against the enemies. Though ranged attack cards and siege attack cards can be played during the normal attack phase, cards cannot be played sideways to contribute to a ranged or siege attack. If the total attack value is equal to or exceeds the total armor values of all targeted enemies, then the enemies are defeated. After the ranged and siege attack phase comes the block phase. You may block any number of attacking enemies during this phase. Any enemies you wish to block are resolved individually. You cannot block multiple enemies at once. If your block total is lower than the attack value of the enemy, your block failed. You cannot lower the attack value by playing blocks to reduce damage. You either block it fully or it goes through at full strength. After the block phase is the assigned damage phase. All enemies that survive through the block phase deal damage equal to their attack value. To assign damage, divide the enemy's attack value by the hero's armor value, then round up. This is the number of wound cards the hero must take into his hand. For example, suppose that the enemy has an attack value of 3, but you have an armor value of 4. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. Round up to 1. You will still take 1 wound into your hand because you did not successfully block the attack. As another example, if the enemy attack value is 4 and your armor value is 2, 4 divided by 2 is 2. You will take 2 wounds into your hand. Note that the wound cards are taken into the hero's hand. They are not put into the deed deck or the discard pile, but are placed directly in your hand. If the number of wound cards added to your hand during a combat equals or exceeds your unmodified hand limit, you're knocked out immediately. Discard all non-wound cards from your hand. Wounds received from other sources also count towards knockout. While knocked out, your units may continue to fight. You can use any of your skills, and you continue taking wounds if you have to assign further damage to your hero. After the assigned damage phase is the attack phase. The attack phase works the same way as the ranged and siege attacks, except you can combine any attacks, ranged, siege, or regular, in this phase. In addition, any non-wound card may be played sideways for an additional attack of 1. And that concludes basic combat. Wasn't that easy?